You know, for all the complaining we've done about the Disney live-action remakes, one problem I don't think we considered was the precedent they set. With the billions of dollars these movies were making, often per film, I never heard anyone bring up that other studios might go,
"Oh, me too. I wanna be like you."
And yet here we are in 2025 with DreamWorks experimenting, let's call it, with not one, but two live-action adaptations of their previous work. Now, on the one hand, this is nothing new, since DreamWorks have been making live-action movies for their entire existence. In fact, they've actually been releasing live-action movies longer than their animated stuff. But this year marks the first time we're seeing live-action movies from their animation studio, which, let's be honest, is what people actually mean when they say DreamWorks movie. They do not mean Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen, even if they do have a similar sense of humor. The first movie of the two is the remake of How to Train Your Dragon. I remember when the trailers for this came out, I was conflicted. On the one hand, it's not Disney. It's entirely possible it's not just going to be a soulless cash grab like you'd expect from them. But from the other perspective, it's also being made with one of the same directors, one of the same actors, and the same aesthetics and tone as the original film, with seemingly very little new to offer. It's entirely possible they're going the Disney route and just rehashing their old stuff. But then the movie came out, critics and audiences seemed on board with it, and so I went in hoping for the best. And wouldn't you know, it wasn't bad. I didn't like it though. Okay, in all fairness, this movie is fine. Unlike a lot of Disney remakes that copy the general outline of the story while missing the actual points that made them work, How to Train Your Dragon is a reasonably faithful adaptation that demonstrates some understanding of the animated version. The loving and symbiotic bond between Hiccup and Toothless, the strained relationship between Hiccup and Stoic. Gerard Butler plays Stoic about as well as he did in the original film because, unlike James Earl Jones, he's not in his 90s. And Toothless's design honestly translates really well to a more realistic art direction, something that Disney have almost routinely screwed up. But all that is basically the highest compliment I can give most of this movie. They didn't completely botch it. In terms of actually impressing me, what do I have to be impressed by? I saw the original film when I was 11, none of this is new to me. If this movie wasn't a remake, like it was just an original film and the 2010 version didn't exist, I would probably like it, but as it is, it's just a worse version of a movie I've already seen. Not a lot worse, but slightly worse. Hiccup in this version is played by Mason Thames, who plays Hiccup serviceably, but he comes across as just a normal guy, and he doesn't have the same dorky but sarcastic flair that Jay Baruchel gave him.
I see a dragon and I have to just kill it, you know? It's who I am, Dad.
Okay, I see a dragon and I have to just kill it.
The other actors are similarly good enough, the only exception being Julian Dennison as Fishlegs. He's the kid who played Russell in Deadpool 2, and he cannot do an American accent to save his life.
Don't worry though, I'm here for all of your dragon-related inquiries, okay? Theories, stats, I've even made, cards.
The movie also repeats a lot of jokes from the original, but they mostly don't work as well this time around. Sometimes the actors' deliveries aren't as funny, and sometimes the movie just cuts out the punchline altogether.
Like someone skimped on the meat in his sandwich.
Excuse me, barmaid. I'm afraid you brought me the wrong offspring.
Somebody forgot the meat in his stew.
I've seen that look.
And sometimes the jokes are based around subverting your expectations, which is kind of hard to do when this is the second time you're telling them. One scene opens with Hiccup asking about dragons.
Is there maybe like another book? Maybe like a Night Fury pen?
Only for the scene to zoom out to reveal that he's currently being attacked by a dragon, and golly gee, he shouldn't be acting so casual in a situation like this. What a silly sausage. But, you know, even if you want to be generous and ignore the very conspicuous silence and lack of context for the surrounding scene at the beginning, this dialogue was in the original.
Is there like another book or a sequel? Maybe a little Night Fury pamphlet?
We know exactly what's going on here. Why the fuck are you hiding it? Plus, there are some minor weird changes, like instead of Hiccup secretly using grass to pacify a dragon in the arena, he uses dandelion seeds. Except, in the original, the grass was small enough that you can buy nobody else saw it. In the remake, the dandelion seeds are just floating out in the open. You'd think someone would notice what Hiccup is trying to pull. Or here, where Hiccup uses an eel on the dragon without anyone seeing.
Think about what you've done.
And then they cut to the village elder watching from this angle, and I'm sorry, but how did she not see Hiccup throw the eel right at it? DreamWorks, I know I'm nitpicking here, but you were the ones that wanted to make basically the exact same movie again. You're not exactly giving me anything better to do. Well, that's not entirely true. Throughout this video, you may have noticed me saying things like this. But all that is basically the highest compliment I can give most of this movie. There is one addition to this movie that I genuinely like. Throughout the first act, the remake does a little bit to build on Hiccup being the unpopular kid on the island. Unlike in the original, where everyone just saw him as a bit of a nuisance, here they straight up just see him as benefiting from nepotism.
Anyone else would have been booted off the island by now.
I guess being son of the chief has its privileges.
This eventually culminates in a completely original scene between him and Astrid that now serves as their first major interaction together. In the scene, Astrid openly resents Hiccup for how he's the son of the chief and had the opportunity to train handed to him while she's had to work for it.
I've got my eye on that big house of yours. I'm gonna be chief one day.
She's effectively saying to Hiccup, enjoy the cushy life while you can, rich boy, because I'm coming for your title. I'm gonna make sure it goes to someone who deserves it. Now, after a speech like that, she's clearly thinking she's just put Hiccup in his place and shown him how in the real world he's not as hot shit as he supposedly thinks he is. But instead, he just agrees with her.
I don't doubt it. Actually, I think my dad would be thrilled.
And then there's that look on her face as, for the first time, she sees things from Hiccup's perspective. That being the son of the chief isn't as easy as she thinks. In fact, it actually burdens him with high expectations to live up to that he's clearly not cut out for, to the point where even his own father can barely tolerate him. And I especially love this line.
Besides, you're the kid he always hoped for. Instead, he got all this.
But you just pointed to all of me.
Unlike the rest of the movie, this is a case where an iconic line from the original actually gets recontextualized and built upon. And the scene ends with Astrid leaving, but not before saying,
Stay out of my way, Hiccup.
she dismisses what Hiccup has said, but notice that she doesn't actually have a rebuttal for it. She ignores it because she doesn't want to confront the fact that in trying to wake Hiccup to reality, he kinda did that to her. I love this scene because in 2 minutes it captures exactly what I think this remake should have been. It pays respect to the original material, but also does something new and innovative with it that adds new value to the story. But the rest of the movie isn't like that. To its credit, it's a competent retelling of the original film, but just a little bit worse in almost every way. And if throughout the movie the only thing on my mind is, why am I watching this? I'm sorry, but you failed. And while having the original director on board probably made this movie better than it otherwise would have been, after making some of the most unique and inventive movies for both DreamWorks and Disney, seeing him now make something as deliberately derivative as this is honestly just kind of depressing. Thank you for nothing, you useless remake. Now, after starting out with a remake of one of their most iconic and beloved movies, what do they do for a follow-up? How about a film based on a show for toddlers? Gabby's Dollhouse the movie is not something I would review under normal circumstances. I watch mature movies for grown-ups, that's why I've made 5 videos on the Cars movies.
He did what in his cup?
But for the sake of seeing what live-action DreamWorks had to offer, I prepared myself. I watched a few episodes of the show for research, and for whatever worth a 26-year-old man's opinion on a show intended for little girls has, it's okay. It seems harmless enough, and as children's entertainment goes, I'm sure you could do worse, but it doesn't strike me as anything special. The animation is fine, but just kind of bland and not particularly expressive. I actually like the live action segments because Layla Lockhart Craner plays her role as Gabby fairly well, but the animation rarely strays from the same vaguely happy facial expression per character, and it doesn't do her performance any favors. And from what admittedly little I've watched of this show, every episode just kind of felt the same and the characters and stories came off as a little generic. I realize it might seem a little silly to analyze a show for preschoolers this deeply, and yeah, obviously I'm not the target audience. But I don't know, I've watched similar stuff that I can still really enjoy as an adult, and I've heard other people even older than me speak extremely positively about other preschool shows like Bluey. Gabby's Dollhouse, from an outsider looking in anyway, comes across as inoffensive but nothing to go on about. But if How to Train Your Dragon is any indication, that's exactly what DreamWorks are looking for. Going into this, a lot of the issues that I had with the show found their way into the movie. The film's direction a lot of the time feels a little lifeless, with a lot of potentially fun scenes just not being made with any sense of energy. For example, there are a couple of chase scenes throughout the movie that have very little speed or urgency about them. Like, you remember in the Aladdin remake where they totally butchered the one jump ahead scene by turning it into a casual stroll through Agrabah while intense music plays?
One jump ahead of the slow pokes, one skip ahead of my doom. Next time, gonna use an arm to boom.
It feels a lot like that. The comedy isn't that great either, and again, I can sense you getting ready to say that it's not made for me, but in my defense, there are moments where it does almost kind of work. There are some mildly funny concepts and the occasional good line, like this one moment where Gabby breaks the fourth wall like she does in the show, and the villain, whose worldview is so different to hers, doesn't understand because she can't see the audience.
I'm sorry, who are you talking to?
That's actually pretty clever and incorporates character and plot into the comedy quite well, but most of the other jokes are just generic one-liners and cat puns.
Oh, she's got that meow chicka meow meow!
And while Kristen Wiig is admirably not at all phoning it in, there's only so much she can do with the material she's given. The movie tries to give Abby an arc with her wondering if she's still gonna play with the dolls once she grows up, and there's a whole scene where she gets upset over it, but it comes out of nowhere. At no point before then did it ever seem like something that might happen, because she's absolutely committed to the dollhouse and the dolls for the whole movie. But despite what I may have led you to believe, the movie actually isn't that bad, and there's a fair amount of good to be found in it. The production design is pretty good, and the animated environments are colorful and pretty to look at. The animation in general is a massive upgrade from the show, and while nowhere near DreamWorks at their best, it's a little more expressive and pleasing to look at. Hell, even the live action locations are spruced up enough that they have the same fantastical look of the animated scenes, and in general, the movie is a good mix between the two. Plus, if you are a fan of the show, I would imagine this is exactly what you'd want out of a film adaptation. It captures the same upbeat vibe of the show, but the stakes are a little higher and the story is a little more epic in scale. And while I'm not really sold on Gabby's character arc, there is at least a little emotional depth from Kristen Wiig as the villain, Vera. She's a fairly typical kids movie villain where she's a grown-up who's forgotten how to be a kid and at the end of the movie learns to have fun again. It's a little cliche, but it's told earnestly enough that it works perfectly fine as the emotional core of the movie. Overall, I enjoyed the film alright. Did it manage to turn me into a Gabby's Dollhouse fan? No, not by a long shot. But I will admit that it did successfully build on the existing material in a way that How to Train Your Dragon really didn't, to the point where I at least understand the appeal of this franchise now. Those are my thoughts on DreamWorks' ventures into live action, and it's a mixed bag. Neither of these films are DreamWorks at their best. They're both much better efforts than what we've seen from Disney in the last decade, and I think Gabby's Dollhouse at least shows the potential of the studio making hybrid movies like this. But at the same time, it's a little concerning that this is apparently their best foot forward. A fine but completely unnecessary remake of a better movie, and a decent enough film with a fairly niche audience. But what's even more concerning is that the only upcoming live action film of theirs that we know of is a remake of How to Train Your Dragon 2. The first remake was already pointless. This is taking the fucking piss. DreamWorks, are you seriously gonna remake the entire trilogy? Like, to quote one of the movies that you seem to want to replicate here,
Isn't one enough?
but if this is the road they want to go down, we're just gonna have to wait and see how it pans out. Maybe down the line, one of these live action films will become DreamWorks Animation's next beloved classic. I'd like that to happen, and all of this has at least convinced me that they have it in them. After all, DreamWorks was created specifically to compete against Disney by doing things a little bit differently to them. Why stop now? Oh, and editor's note, if you want me to say something positive about Gabby's Dollhouse the TV show, look up the song Sprinkle Party. It unironically slaps.
Every day is a sprinkle party.
Special thanks to my Patreon supporters Heather Reed, Moon Goddesses, The Hen Rolled, Chris Spicer, Jacob K, Wasp Sen, Andrew Taylor, and Deceiver of Gods. Thank you so much for the support. If you'd like to see your name in the credits, along with early access to scripts and videos, as well as exclusive unused video thumbnails, or if you'd just like to chat with me, consider supporting me on Patreon for just $1.50 a month. The link is in the description.